You know that feeling when you scroll through a sea of glossy TV ads, every picture shows a living room that looks like a showroom, and the specs are all dazzling, then you finally unbox the thing and the picture looks flat, the sound feels thin, or the glare from the window makes everything look washed out? I've been there, and it's why I'm not just throwing a generic "this TV is great" line at you. I spent a few weeks setting up the Samsung 55-inch Neo QLED QN90B in a real family room, swapping it between a gaming console, a streaming stick, and the occasional sports broadcast, just to see if it lives up to the hype and, more importantly, if it's worth the price tag you'll pay on Amazon. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of room this TV is built for. The Neo QLED panel uses a mini LED backlight and a quantum matrix that promises deeper blacks and brighter highlights. In my house, that translates to a noticeable difference when I'm watching a nighttime documentary on the couch while the kitchen light is on. The anti-glare coating really does help. The picture stays visible even when sunlight slants across the screen, something that many OLEDs struggle with without a dim room. If you have a bright living space with lots of windows, that anti-glare feature is a practical win, not just a marketing buzzword. Now, the sound side. Samsung bundled Dolby Atmos with Object Tracking Sound Plus, which tries to move audio objects around the room as you pan the action. In practice, the TV's built-in speakers deliver a decent sense of direction when I'm watching an action movie. Explosions seem to come from the left or right rather than just blasting straight out. It's not a full home theater replacement, but it does let you skip an external soundbar for casual evenings. The thing I appreciated was the automatic volume leveling. The TV keeps dialogue clear even when a car chase roars past, which is a lifesaver for anyone watching late at night without turning the volume up to ear-splitting levels. The Neo Quantum processor does the heavy lifting when it comes to upscaling. I tested it with a 1080p Blu-ray of an older sci-fi flick and the picture looked surprisingly sharp. Edges were clean, colors stayed vivid, and there wasn't that typical soft look you sometimes get from lower-end upscalers. For gamers, the processor's motion handling is smooth enough that fast-paced shooters feel fluid, and the low input lag, which Samsung doesn't brag about in the spec sheet but is documented in independent tests, makes the TV viable for competitive play. If you have a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X, you'll see the benefits of the 4K upscaling when you drop a 4K native game onto a 1080p source. The TV does a respectable job pulling detail out of the image. One of the hidden trade-offs I discovered is the need for a strong Wi-Fi connection. The smart TV platform is packed with voice assistants Alexa, Bixby, Google, so you can ask for shows, control lights, or get the weather without lifting a remote. However, the UI feels a bit heavier than some rivals, and on a congested network it can stutter when you're scrolling through the app carousel. If you're already invested in a robust router or are okay with running an Ethernet cable, you'll barely notice it. For a purely wireless setup in a crowded apartment building, you might want to double-check your internet speed before you commit. Who should actually buy this Samsung 55-inch Neo QLED? If you're a family that watches a mix of movies, sports, and gaming, and you need a TV that can handle bright rooms without sacrificing contrast, this one hits the sweet spot. The anti-glare screen, strong HDR performance, thanks to Quantum HDR 32X, and the decent built-in audio make it a solid all-in-one solution. It also appeals to people who already use Alexa or other voice assistants, because the integration feels natural. Just say, "Hey Alexa, switch to Netflix," and the TV obeys without you hunting for the remote. On the other hand, if you're a hardcore audiophile who plans to pair a TV with a high-end AV receiver, or if you're chasing the absolute deepest blacks for a darkroom home theater, you might look elsewhere. OLED panels still hold an edge on pure black levels, and a separate sound system will always outshine built-in speakers, even with Dolby Atmos. Also, if your budget is tight, there are 4K QLEDs from other brands that land in a lower price bracket while offering comparable brightness. Just keep in mind you might lose a bit of the anti-glare polish. A practical weakness that showed up after a couple of weeks was the angle viewing performance. While Samsung markets ultra viewing angle, sitting directly opposite the TV gave you the best picture, but moving to a side seat, say, on a sofa that's offset, resulted in a slight color shift, especially in the bright highlights. It wasn't a deal breaker, but if you have a wide-shaped living room where people regularly watch from the side, you might notice.